In this video, we'll take a look at a couple of other tools to work with 3D models. And one of those tools will be working with the layout space. So here, this is the assignment that we'll be working with. We're going to create it in the model space, which is the space that we started with the introduction to 3D in the last assignment. And once you draw your objects, and we'll also be talking about putting dimensions on your project, we're going to, on the bottom left corner, click on Layout. And now in the Layout space, and I'm just showing you this before we get started, you have a sheet of paper, you have a hole in the paper right there, and you have then the text that's on the paper. So if I double click here out in space, I'm now on the paper and I can select the text. But if I'm inside this hole, I double clicked inside, it's actually called a viewport, then we'll be able to set up this view for our paper. Okay, so let's get started. We can start a brand new drawing as we did before. Also, just as a reminder, make sure that when you start a brand new drawing, you're using this ACAD template. We did create a GM template in previous assignments, but in this drawing, we'll be using the default ACAD template. Not the 3D template either, just the regular AutoCAD ACAD template. Okay, we can save this file as the name of the assignment. You can put it in the folder that you need it to be put in on your computer so that you can save it. And then let's get started. So I'm going to turn off the grid as I usually do. And as a reminder, we are changing here the ribbon to the 3D modeling workspace. So at the bottom right corner, as we did in the introduction video, we are changing from drafting and annotation to 3D modeling. That will change the entire ribbon so that we can work with the 3D modeling tools along with the 2D modeling tools, so you won't have to go back and forth between the two because they're already in the ribbon. We also said that we have these view controls. At the top left of our screen, we can change from top to southeast isometric, and you'll see that the view cube also changes. That's another way of working with 3D. And if you'd like, it's a little bit easier, I think. Instead of working with 2D wireframe, let's go to conceptual for our visual style. We have in our assignment a box that looks like it's 5 inches by 5 by 2. So you know from the last assignment or the introduction that we could draw a box that's 5 by 2 and use press pull to extrude or press pull that solid up 2.5. But instead, I'd like to show you another tool. Let's draw a box. Instead of creating a 2D shape and then press pulling it up, we can go ahead and start the box tool. We're going to click a point and then stop and see that one of your command line options is length. So we started the box tool, we clicked a point, then we're going to click on length. And when you click on length, you can pull your mouse in that 0 direction along that tracking vector. So make sure you have that extended green line there. Pull your mouse along that tracking vector and type in 5 and enter. See, it kind of locks in 5 inches. Now I can pull my mouse over and type in 2 and enter. That's for the length and the width. And then pull your mouse up and type in 2.5 and enter. Now we have this box. We can start to draw the circles right here that are on this front face. Let's make sure in our object snaps that we have the midpoint object snap, which should be still checked, just as a check here. And then we'll go up to draw and pick up the circle center radius. We have two circles, one with a radius of 1.5 and one with the radius of 1. So we'll pick circle center radius. Now this is where it's important that you highlight this front face. And then come over, make sure that the front face is still highlighted, and click your midpoint object snap right there. You see how the circle, if I orbit around, is on that surface. And I can type in 1.5 and enter. If your circle is on the top surface or over out in space, we didn't highlight that front face in order to draw it on that surface. So we'll do it again for the radius of 1. So circle center radius, highlight the front face, click the midpoint, type in 1 and enter. We do also have those same circles on the other side. You can draw them again, or you can hold your shift key and the wheel of your mouse to orbit around to the other side. I did say that you can use here the navigation bar on the right side, which mine's not there now, so I'll show you how to turn it back on. You can go to view, and you see this right here, navigation bar. That turns it on and off. There it is. So there's my navigation bar. It's under view or your view cube in case it gets turned off right there. I'll go back to the home tab so we can work in the home tab. But if you don't have a mouse with the wheel on it, you can use this navigation bar to use the full navigation wheel, or here are some more tools we can use to orbit. Okay, so at this point we can draw the two circles again on this surface, or I'm just going to copy them. So you can start the copy command to give you a little more experience with using copy. It's in the modify panel. You can start the copy command, select these two here circles and enter, and then the base point is where you want to pick them up. So I'm going to click back here where I originally picked to draw those to pick those up. Now I'm going to come over here to the front face. It might not look like it's going to go there, but as long as you click here the midpoint, you'll get those two circles, and then escape out of the copy command. Now I have the 4 circles that I need. I can use press pull. So I'm going to come up to the top left, use press pull, that little blue icon, and I'm just going to go in the bottom kind of smile face here shape and click. You're inside of it so that you can get the solid. Pull your mouse out, and that would be 1. So type in 1 and enter. Now if I hold my shift key and my wheel of my mouse and kind of orbit over to the other side, I can get in here on the other side and click and pull my mouse out and type in 1 and enter. And now to cut this piece out, because we need this to be all open here, we can click on this kind of half circle with press pull, pull your mouse all the way back and click to kind of like take that out. Okay, those are the commands we did look at some of those in the introduction, but now we're applying it to one of the assignments. I'll use my escape key to get rid of here that press pull, and you can orbit so that all 4 of these circles are easy to select and delete. So you can select all of these and erase them. Okay, we have a circle over here. If I pan over, we have a circle in the assignment that's 1 inch over and 1 inch up from the midpoint. So we'll just draw a line right on the surface from the midpoint up 1, and then we'll draw the circle. So we'll start the line tool, just regular line, but again, make sure that this face is highlighted. Click the midpoint, pull your mouse straight up type in 1 and enter, and then enter. Now I can draw the circle, which is a diameter of 0.75. I can go up to here, circle center diameter. Make sure that this surface is highlighted. Click on the end of that line and then type in 0.75 and enter. Now that I have that circle, I can use press pull to kind of gut that out. The detail doesn't show how far back the circle goes, but we'll just go ahead and bring it all the way back. So we'll start the press pull tool, go inside this circle, right inside of it, and click, pull your mouse all the way back and click, and that will here kind of take out and put that hole in your part. And now that it's there, we can easily get to this, deleting this line. So I'm going to go ahead and escape out of press pull and grab that line and delete it. You can right click and pick erase too. Okay, this is our detail so far. We do have a fillet radius, which is underneath this kind of curved edge. And we have it on both sides. It doesn't show it. Yeah, I guess it does right there. So we're going to go up to fillet. We're going to select here that curved edge that's between the curved part and the box. Your command line says enter fillet radius. This is where we type in 0.25. And as we did before, you can enter and then enter again. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and hold my shift key and the wheel of my mouse, come around to the other side, start the fillet command, click on that edge there between the curve and the box. It's already typed in as 0.25, so I can press enter and then press enter again. And there's my fillet. So we're starting to see that this object is drawn. You might end up seeing a couple other blue lines there that are a little glitchy here. And now this is the only assignment so far that we're going to attempt to put dimensions on the 3D solid. It's a little bit tricky, but I think it would be worth knowing how to do this in the 3D space. So find a view that looks kind of comfortable and like what this drawing looks like. And then one way to dimension your drawing in the model space is to force the UCS icon, this right here, to rotate onto a surface so that we can dimension it. So click right on top of this colorful XYZ UCS icon, user coordinate system icon, and then click inside the box right there that's going to be the origin. Pull your mouse over until it rests on the surface that you want to dimension. You see how the XY is there? So you don't want to be up by this arc because it'll go all in different views in order to rotate it. But you may have to pull it off and then back on in order to get the XY here on that surface. Once the XY is on that surface, we can go to annotate here, the annotate tab, and use linear to place here by clicking these two corners the 2.5 and back to linear for the 5.0 right here. Those are the only two, and you want to pull that down a little bit so that you can get those two dimensions for the radius in there. You can see that we have way too many zeros for our dimensions, so we're going to type in D and enter. Pick the modify button. We did this before. Go to the primary units tab and change your precision to 0.00. Pick OK and close. Now that those two dimensions are placed, we can go back and pick up this UCS icon. We're going to go select it, click on the box where the origin is, pull it off, and then put it on this other edge. See how the XY kind of rotates to that surface It's a surface, not an edge, a surface, and click. Now we can pick up these other 3 dimensions. We can go to linear and click on the corner and the center of the circle in order to get this 1 here. And linear again for the center of the circle and the bottom corner right here. Also, we can go under the linear tool and pick diameter for the 0.75 diameter. I'm going to click the edge of this circle, pull your mouse down and click. So now we have these 3 dimensions for that surface. We can pick this UCS icon up again by selecting it and clicking in the box and put it on the top surface. It can be here or it can be over here. The main point of this though is that X is the direction of the text. So far we haven't had to change the direction of the text. But if, for instance, I come over on this surface and you see how X now is going towards me, the text will rotate that in that direction. So I want to make sure that X is facing the direction of your text. If it's not, you can always click inside the little ball there that's at the grip that's at the end of the X direction and kind of rotate this around so that X is the direction of the text. Now we can go to linear and pick the 2 corners here for the dimension of 2. You have to get a little closer and move your mouse around so that those object snaps don't get in your way. Sometimes I just pull my mouse way out in space just so that I don't get these object snaps that are running and on, because that'll affect the location of your dimension. So I'll just go over here and click. And then linear again to pick up the corners for the 4.00 right there. All right, now the last surface is going to be the surface that's out here away from the box for the dimensions for the radius. I'm going to go ahead and pick the UCS icon up. This is a tricky one. You want to make sure that you're right on that curve. And sometimes I hold my shift key and my wheel of my mouse and I orbit around just to make sure that it's really on that surface. Sometimes it goes back to one of those object snaps and gets off that surface. Underneath linear, I can pick up radius, and I'll pick this edge here for the 1.5 and click. I'll go back to radius and click this other curve, this other edge, and click here. Okay, this is our model, and when you're done, you might want to type in UCS and enter twice just to put that XYZ here UCS icon over back to the origin and back to the AutoCAD defaults. Now we're ready to learn a little bit more about layout space. So it's an introduction in this assignment. We can now go from the model space that we're in to the layout space right there. I can actually maximize this now that we're done with the detail. And what you'll see here when you zoom up and down using the wheel of your mouse or your navigation bar over here, you'll see that you're not in model space, you're actually on a paper. And the hidden line represents the margin for the paper that's assigned to this layout. And this becomes kind of like a hole or a box that holds the view for that model that's below. So just to make this clearer for you, let's delete this. I selected it and I picked delete on the keyboard, although you could go back to the home tab and use erase too. So see what happens when you delete that box? The paper's empty, like doesn't have anything on it, but if you click on the model tab at the bottom left corner, the object's still there. So let's go back to layout 1. The idea here is that you're creating box that will kind of like cut a hole in the paper so that you can view the objects. And that would be called the viewport. So we're going to put that box on a layer that won't print. So let's go back over to layer properties. And you can see that we've been using the layer 0, and def points is a layer that's created automatically when you start to place your dimensions. We talked about that in one of the assignments. That's not something that you created, it's automatic. But we're going to create another layer, so go ahead and pick the new layer icon. We need a layer called viewport. Some companies will call it viewport. It's going to be a layer that'll hold those boxes that represent the views on your paper. And while we're at it, let's press enter twice or pick the new layer icon and create another layer called dim text. That's going to be a layer for our text as we start to set up the paper. And I would recommend that you change the color of these layers just to make sure that you're organized. I'm going to change the viewport layer and the dim text layer colors. You can use whatever layers colors you'd like. So the main point of that we're making in this assignment is to create a layer called viewport so that we can make it a no plot layer. So watch out for this, because you see this column that says plot and it has all these little printers. You can see that the def points layer doesn't print. We don't want it to print because it holds those little dots that are at the end of the dimension extensions. So the viewport layer, we need to click on the little printer and make sure that it's a little red dot there. So if you notice that you see objects in your drawing, but when you do a print preview, you don't see them to print, chances are that a bunch of these printers have been accidentally turned on. So you'll have to come back here to check it out. But we specifically want the viewport layer to be here a no plot layer. We're going to double click on the little sheet of paper to the left of viewport to make that layer current and close out of this dialog box. Now, the way to draw one of those holes and not use the default, we could have used the default box and just put it on the viewport layer. That's an option. We'll do that in another assignment. But we want to create a viewport. So at the very top right corner, the last tab there is called layout. At the top right, the ribbon changes, and what you'll have is a panel called layout viewports. We're going to click here rectangle, and then we're going to click a point, pull your mouse over and click another point, and now you've actually created this rectangle in the layout tab that becomes a hole. See what happens when you double click inside that hole and you start to zoom. You are actually out of the paper in the hole here in the model space. You can set up the scale for this, and we'll do that possibly with other assignments, but for this one, just make it as big as you can. And honestly, because we can crop this hole, you can have a little bit of it kind of covered by this box, and then double click out into the paper, select that box once, and use these grips to kind of crop it. See how I'm cropping it so that it's a little bigger? It's not going to print, but this box, I can move it around by either the move command, or I can click on it and hold your left mouse button down and drag it around, or you can crop it. Okay, so we have this hole. We can double click to go inside of it. We can double click to go outside of it. One other thing that you can do, go ahead and double click to get inside the hole. Now you're actually in the layout space, but you're inside this viewport here to access your model in the model space. we can go up to the left. If you go up to the top left corner inside the viewport space or hole, you can now see the text. You see the text where you can change your visual style to hidden or something else, right? So if you wanted to print in conceptual, if you wanted to use realistic because maybe you put some materials on it. We haven't put materials on our project yet. You can put materials on your project, and that's when you'll want to use realistic here. I normally use conceptual or hidden or one of these other shades unless I put material on it. Okay, the hidden view looks like a good one. Another way of getting to that is over in the Home tab, in case you have a Mac or you can't see the text that's at the top left. Once you're inside the viewport, you can go back to the Home tab, and right here in this drop down we looked at before, you can change your visual style under this view panel. All right, so now we want to put our text. There are a couple things we need to do. First, we need to double click out in the paper because we're putting the text on the paper. And we want to change our layer. If we don't change our layer here at the top right, we'll end up putting our text on the viewport layer, and then what's going to happen? It won't print, right? So drop the layer list down and click right on the word dim text. We did put the text on the layer 0, which is fine. It'll still print, okay? We can go to annotate and pick up multi-line text there at the beginning of the ribbon. And now we're on the paper space, so I have to kind of ignore this line here because they're not going to print. I'm going to click a point, pull my mouse over and click, and then with your cap locks on, you can start to type in the assignment. Whatever the number is, assignment, and then check it out, make sure you have the right number. You can go ahead and put your name there. And I believe on the original, it does have radius maybe equal to 0.25. Let's take a look. Yeah, fillet radius 0.25. Okay, I'll go back. Okay, then highlight your assignment title and pick the U for underlining it and click in space. There it is. Now, you don't have to print it in this class so far, but I would like to go through printing for you because you might be printing this for your portfolio. Very quickly, I'm going to go to the print little icon at the top and pick continue to plot a single sheet. I can pick out the printer, so whatever printer that you're connecting to, maybe you have a desktop. I'm going to use here AutoCAD PDF, high quality print. You might need this for your portfolio. We might actually end up asking for that later on in this class, but we haven't yet for this assignment. We also have here the plot style tables or pen assignments. We want that to be monochrome so that everything is monochrome. And everything else is set up because we're in the layout, right? So the layout itself is giving you the paper size, the plot, you know, what to plot, which is the layout, and this it's scaled to fit 1:1, which is the paper. So pick apply to layout, and that'll save it in this file and in this tab. I'm going to pick preview, and the preview looks good. It's monochrome. The text is there, and it's not, you know, on a layer that's like the viewport layer. That's a no plot layer. And if you are using a student version, you will see this produced by an Autodesk student version, which is fine. We are accepting those because many students are downloading the software at home. Okay. So you can cancel out of that, or you can create your PDF and put it in your folder for later on when you put your portfolio together.